Here's the thing. You are not a savage. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you did. Listen, you're not a savage. Let's break this down. So, recently, there have been a slew of young internet celebrities that have decided that the word savage, one, is a good thing. It didn't used to be a good thing. And two, that they themselves are the epitome of savage. Keep in mind, when I say the word savage, the word literally means of an animal force of nature, fierce, violent, and uncontrolled or uncivilized. So, clearly, what we're talking about is just gonna be ridiculous, uncivil, not okay in the domain of the human experience. Let's get into it. The truth is, you're not a savage. These internet celebrities are not a savage. Look at this fidget spinner. Yeah. Oh, so savage. No, listen, you're not a savage. In light of this, I want to take just a minute to highlight some of history's true actual savages. So let's start with the good old BC. We're going to talk about Julius Caesar. Now, if you don't know Julius Caesar, he's the guy, Shakespeare wrote a fictional play about him. Depending on the region you're from, the word Caesar was reinvented as the word Tsar, T-S-A-R, C-Z-A-R, T-Z-A-R. It depends on where you're from is how you spell it. But it means leader. It's from Caesar. He's the guy who took over Rome. Need I say anything else? No, I don't. Listen, just about every single language has a title for the ruler based off Caesar. Except for America, we call him a president. But that's beside the point. Caesar is like the guy known for leadership, the emperor of Rome. This guy, I mean, he's pretty cool. All right. I don't need to explain him. You've heard of Caesar before. And if you tell me, yeah, I know Caesar. He's the guy that Caesar salad is named after. No, that is so far from who Caesar is. And if you say Caesar ate Caesar salad, he probably didn't. Okay, Caesar dressing didn't exist in ancient Rome. By the way, the month of July is named after Julius Caesar. He has a whole 12th of the year dedicated to him. What you probably didn't know about Julius Caesar, back when he was a ripe old age of 25 years old. That's right, that's 5 years, that's scary. He was 25 years old. You know what happened? He got kidnapped by a band of pirates. Now, I don't know what pirates were like back then, but I assume that's a very scary situation to have happen. So, young old JC gets kidnapped by pirates, and they demand a 20 talents of silver ransom. Now, a talent is a weight of about 33 kilograms or about 75 pounds of silver, which is probably worth a lot. Following the price of silver, 20 talents of silver is the equivalent of about $600,000 today, which is a lot of money for a ransom. Caesar, he's not taking this. He says, no, a man like me, if you're going to kidnap a man like me, you better demand 50 talents of silver. I'm not 20 talents of silver. That's chump change. More than $500,000. That's chump change. I demand that you price me at 50 talents of silver. He's making himself more expensive for himself, which, what? Dude, you're not in a negotiating position, and that's a bad negotiation. So, Julius Caesar raises his price from $600,000 to about $1.5 million. Whoa! Like, this dude means business. This dude already shows up and just kind of takes over. While he's prisoner on the pirate ship, you know what he does? He just kind of sits in his room. He writes a little poetry, because of course he's a poet. If you're a genius, you gotta be a poet. And he writes speeches. So what he'll do is he'll stand up on the pirate ship, demand everyone stops what they're doing, and he'll read this speech about how after he gets out of here, he's going to come back and slaughter everybody. Yeah. Keep in mind, this dude's a prisoner. So as a prisoner on a warship, a pirate ship, this dude's coming up and saying, everybody stop what you're doing. Pay attention to me, I got something to say. Which is absolutely savage. There was a time on this pirate ship when good old Caesar, he was having a little trouble sleeping because his captors were working a little bit too loud. You know what Julius Caesar does? He gets up in front of that pirate ship and says, everybody, chill out. Be quiet, I want to sleep. And they do. They pipe down to let him sleep. When he's a prisoner on this ship, he just comes in and says, I'm in charge now. And they're okay with it. That's savage. Unfortunately, for the pirates, they didn't take his threat very seriously, because after that, he just whips up this small army and then crucifies every single one of the pirates that kidnapped him in the first place. If that doesn't scream savage, I don't know what does. But nah, instead we got a young YouTuber covering his girlfriend in slime and calling himself a savage. Yeah. So just moving on in chronological order, we're going to talk about a dude named Napoleon. Now, I understand this dude, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this dude. I'm not going to address that. I'm just going to address how unbelievably savage one moment in Napoleon's life was. So, other than the fact that Napoleon conquered pretty much most of Europe, there's one moment in particular that is the crown of Napoleon's savagery. And that was in his coronation. Here's how it used to work back then. Emperors and kings were most often crowned by the Pope, or crowned by the religious leader at the time, which made a lot of sense. It was symbolism to say God and the church is still in a different league above what mortal men do, including the kings, because God is the king of kings. Makes a lot of sense. Anyway, when it's Napoleon's turn to get crowned the Emperor of France, you know what he does? This dude walks up. The Pope's sitting there, he's got the crown, he's getting ready to crown Napoleon. And Napoleon goes, wait. Takes the crown from the Pope, rips it out of his hands, and crowns himself. Because he says, the only guy worthy of crowning me is me. And then just walks out of the room. If that's not a savage move, tell me what is. Nah, if I make a video pranking being dead, and if I have a girlfriend, she's weeping at my side, and then I go, oh, look at me, I'm not dead. Man, that's pretty savage too. Moving on. We're going to talk now about Ludwig von Beethoven. Don't tune out quite yet. I know you're thinking, this is boring. They made a movie of a dog, and that's the most interesting thing that happened with Beethoven. Dude just made classical music while being freaking deaf. I mean, thinking of being blind and being an excellent painter. That's kind of what Beethoven was like. Dude was a genius. Anyway, that's not what makes him savage. What we're talking about today is an improv battle. Now, you see, before they had the interwebs and fantastic YouTube videos, what would happen is the aristocrats would all gather in a small room and there would be an improv duel. This would be between two virtuoistic pianists. I know that's not the right use of the word, I don't care. And they would duel each other. They would get a piece of music and then they would improv off of that piece. And they would kind of go back and forth until a winner was declared. Now, Beethoven, not surprisingly, had never lost a duel. But there was this one guy. This dude's name was Daniel Steibelt, and he decided, you know what? I am number 2 in all of Europe. I'm going to give Beethoven a run for his money. So, Daniel Steibelt and Beethoven, Daniel kind of goes first. He has this piece, this dude, he thinks, I'm going to be a little savage in front of Beethoven. He takes this piece of music and he tosses it aside because I'm a virtuoistic pianist. I don't need this piece. And he kind of plays his piece and he's, oh, look at me, I'm Daniel Steibelt. I'm someone that you have to Google because you don't know his name. And then after he gets done, everybody kind of applauds. Beethoven says, I want to go home. And they're like, no, you have to duel this guy. So he's like, fine. Beethoven walks up to the piano, takes Daniel Steibelt's piece up from the ground, and he says, this is interesting, turns the piece upside down, slaps it on the piano, and decides, all right, let's give this guy a run for his money. So Beethoven, on the upside down Daniel Steibelt piece, starts playing it, and then he mocks it, and then he parodies it, and then he absolutely wrecks Daniel Steibelt so hard. Daniel says, I am never going to visit Venice again unless Beethoven is not living there anymore. He never visited Venice again because he died before Beethoven did. Beethoven wrecked this guy so badly that he was never again asked to duel anyone else. And he kept his number 1 seat in Venice for the rest of his life. Beethoven broke the game. He broke entertainment while he was deaf. Beethoven just absolutely wrecks this dude, who's number 2 in all of Europe. That is savage. It was savage then, it's savage now. It'll be savage in 100 years when slime pranks are completely forgotten. But nah, see, I'm a rapper. I'm a modern rapper, and I'm gonna make a diss track on somebody. Man, that's so savage. Next up on the list is a guy who is surprisingly named the Bull Moose. I don't know how those two animals go together, or how that works. But he was a guy named Teddy Roosevelt. And you know what? This dude was like the man's man. He was a savage. Not only winning an award for being extraordinarily vicious in battle and the Nobel Peace Prize in the same lifetime, which don't really know how that happened or who the selection committee on those two things were. So some people were a little upset with how unbelievably awesome Teddy Roosevelt was. So they decide, you know what, we're going to send an assassin after Teddy Roosevelt, and he gets shot in the chest right before he's about to deliver an hour-long speech. So Teddy Roosevelt, with a freaking hole in his chest, says, yeah, you know, hospital? We're not going to do that right now. Mr. President, you need to go to the hospital. Nah, I'm cool. So what Teddy Roosevelt does, instead of going to the hospital like every other non-savage person in the world would do, and you would think would be reasonable, this dude says, nah, I'm going to walk up there and deliver an hour-long speech. So he walks up to this podium and he starts rambling on this hour-long speech while he's bleeding out from having a hole in his chest. You know what he does? He's like, you know what? I feel inspired right now. So that hour-long speech turns into a 2-hour-long speech while the dude is bleeding from his visceral cavities. And afterwards he's like, yeah, okay, I'll go to the hospital. I don't even want to talk about a savage moment from a modern media right now because it's going to ruin the moment. But that dude's a savage. I don't even need to make parallels to talk about how savage that is and how savage other things aren't. I was going to even talk about some of the modern day actual savages, but I think there is one thread in all of these that is very, very clear, and that is actual savages. If we look at history and we talk about these 4 guys that were actual savages, they don't ever need to talk about how savage they are. Instead, they just kind of do awesome things, and everyone just kind of understands that they're a savage. You know why? Because they're savage. And you just look at their deeds, and you're like, man, I wish I was that boy. I wish that was me. So the next time you hear someone say, man, I'm a savage, or look at me, that was so savage. Oh, dude, that was savage. Just be like, nah. Thanks for watching. Be an actual savage. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you want to. And of course, stay salty. Go break some eggs.